Hello, I'm Emily Taylor from Collage Quilter. This is the first video tutorial about making the rooster project, Petit Rouge project. So here is the pattern, and I am going to be demonstrating how to get started on this rooster right here. This is Jean. He's my favorite, so he's the one that I'm going to demonstrate for you today. So when you buy the pattern, it comes in this nice little booklet. It does have full color photos and illustrations so that you can see step by step how to do this. And we are going to be working on this one right here. So I'm going to turn to him back here, and I'm going to cut these pages out so that I can tape them together. So I'm going to do something that everybody is told don't do, but I figured this is a cute little tiny blade and I'm going to use it to cut him out. And you'll want to do this with each of the roosters. So you'll cut them away and you'll need to tape them together. There are 3 pieces for each rooster, and they're all labeled. So each of the 6 roosters has their own name. Okay, so I have cut those out. Here they are. There's his feet, and now what we're going to do is take some paper scissors, and I'm just going to cut right along the line just so that I can line them up really good with the adjoining pieces. And I think I'll cut along this one too. So get your paper scissors ready and your tape ready, and this will make your complete template. So I'm just going to line this up now. There we go. Easy peasy. And then I'll be, excuse me, I'll be tracing there we go. Got something in my throat. Sorry about that. Yes, water, please. Thank you. Better. Okay. So here is Jean. I have my light box. You can also hang this in a window on a sunny day. But I like using a light box, and I'm doing this all the time, so here we go. So I'm just going to take a piece of parchment paper. Do not use freezer paper. Use parchment paper. And you're going to trace the rooster onto your parchment paper. So give me a minute and I'll get this done, and then we'll come back here and we're going to talk about getting your fabric ready. Okay, so I have the bird traced onto my parchment paper, and I like to just keep him handy nearby in case I need a reference. So he's a great reference. You might also want to keep the picture next to you so you can kind of see what I've done. Okay, so the next step now, we are going to select fabric and get the fabric ready to use. So in the complete kit comes this lovely bundle of fabric. This has 50 pieces of fabric that I have selected that you can use on all 6 of the birds. So this is really a great deal. So let me show you all of those fabrics. We've got the blacks and the creams and the orange and brown, yellow, white, everything that you'll need. But You can also add more of your own fabric, or you can use your own fabric. The bottom line is that you will need lots of different fabric to make this collage look really interesting, and you need to prepare it with Steam-A-Seam. So I am a big advocate of light Steam-A-Seam too. If you're going to do only one of the birds, you might just buy one package. You can buy these on my website, collagequilter.com. So this is a sheet of 5. Or if you're going to be doing the whole set of roosters, I'd recommend getting a roll of light Steam-A-Seam too. And this is 3 yards by, I think, 18 inches or something like that, maybe 12 inches. So get your Steam-A-Seam. The way I like to prepare my fabric is I will just cut the pieces so that they're in manageable sizes, about like this. I don't need a whole lot more than this amount right here. And the way I like to do it, I peel the paper off of the Steam-A-Seam. It doesn't matter which side. I expose the sticky stuff, and then I take my little rectangles that I've cut and I put them right on the sticky side of the Steam-A-Seam. And then I actually, again, will cheat and cut. This is a really super easy and fast way to get my fabric ready for the collage part. Okay, so I will cut all of these pieces out. Give me a minute, I'll get this done, and then I'll see you back here in just a second. Okay, so I have cut all of the fabric pieces out. I've applied the Steam-A-Seam on the back. Now I just like to run a hot dry iron on the back side, just like that, to ensure that the Steam-A-Seam is stuck to the fabric and not to the paper anymore. And now, so I'll just make sure that these are all done. And then what we're going to do is sort them according to color. And I have a whole bunch that I've used previously. So these are my new pieces. You can tell they're new because they're still rectangles. So that's just ensuring that all the pieces have been, again, adhered to the Steam-A-Seam. Okay, so now I'm going to take all of this fabric. I've got a whole bunch right here. So in this particular bird, Jean is one of the reasons I chose to demonstrate him. Not only is he my favorite, but he also has yellow and kind of some brown and tan and white and black, and then his little red head. So there's a lot going on, and I wanted to show you how I think about the fabric. So this is the entire assortment of fabric that I've selected to use for that bird. Now, I might not use all of it, but this is like my palette. So the more I have, the better. Then I have choices. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to take all of this fabric now over to my workspace, and I'll see you in a sec. All right, I am ready to get started on Jean the rooster, and I just want to show you kind of my setup here. So this is a drafting table. You don't need a drafting table, but it really is handy for me. And sitting on the drafting table is a piece of just foam core that I had cut at Hobby Lobby, and I taped some felt onto it so that I can press it with heat. But the foam core also makes it really easy for me to stick pins in, which is what I've used to hang up the parchment paper. So we've got the tracing right here, I've got my reference right here, and I've also cut out from the little pattern booklet the photograph so I can see where I've put different colors. It's just nice to have another reference. So that's kind of my work area, and then I have a small folding table next to me, and this has all of my fabric that I've prepared. So I've got my blues and my blacks, my whites and creams and a little bit of gray, some good brown colors, yellows, reds, okay? I also have a pin cushion. Pins are really super helpful. And I've got my really sharp Karen K. Buckley scissors. These are my 6-inch scissors. And I've got my tweezers. I love these really, really sharp tweezers. They're so helpful when I want to layer pieces. And then finally I've got my my wand iron and a silicone mat for it to sit on. So I am ready to get started. Oh, and one more thing. I have a trash can down here because when I'm peeling off the pieces of paper, it gets really messy. So I've got to have a trash can close by. So I'm just going to dig in on this and I'll let you watch me for a little bit. And then I'll show you when it's all finished. Okay, here we go. All right, so these first few cuts might not stick to the parchment paper very well, and that's why it's really helpful to have my wand iron nearby. We need the pieces to stick to the parchment paper, but not to each other, at least not permanently quite yet. So you can see I'm just looking at this. I'm starting where it's darkest. That's just an easy way to start because it's a good reference. I know everything else is going to be lighter on this, and it's just a good place to start. So I have a pretty good variety of blacks here, and I like to intermingle a little bit of blue with the black because you know how roosters have that kind of iridescent looking feather. So what I'm doing is I score the back side of the paper, and then it helps me to peel the pieces off really easily. And if it doesn't stick, again, just press it to the parchment paper. And the idea is now I am just making these pieces fit in this dark area that I'm trying to cover. All of the pieces need to overlap slightly. So they overlap by about 1/8 of an inch to 1/2 inch. There's no specific measurement that they must overlap, but they do need to overlap because when we are ready to peel this whole thing off, we want it to peel off in one piece. We want all of these pieces to stick together, and then they become a little bit like a sticker. So the shape that I'm doing is, it's pretty angular, but a little bit like a feather. I don't like everything to be like a feather. I want it to be a little impressionist. And the size is, you can kind of see the size is about the size of a fingernail. And one thing too, it's really important again to have a very wide variety of fabric. That's what is going to make my collage look very sophisticated and interesting. And it's actually much easier to work with a wide variety of fabric than to not have enough fabric to choose from. The advantage with keeping my pieces somewhat small like this is that I can incorporate a wider variety of fabric. And again, the key is the wide variety of fabric is what makes this look interesting. It's really fun for me to look and see what happens when I put different fabrics together. They do their job. They do their work. And it's really fun to see that happen. If you would like more information about color theory and how to select fabric, I recommend you buy my book, Collage Quilter Essentials for Success, or I do video tutorials, kind of a master class about color theory that might be helpful. if you're looking for more information about how I select fabric. Okay, so you can see that I have finished collaging everything on the bird and he looks really great. I'm super excited about him. He didn't take me very long, surprisingly. Okay, so now I'm going to do his little face, and in this I'm going to do a sass tracing, and I'll show you why I call it a sass tracing. So I'm going to take the fabric that I've selected. Actually, let's start with this darker fabric to match right there first. What I'm going to do is peel back the fabric away from the paper, and I don't really want to score it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to lay it right up here and trace where his face should go, the shape of it. Now you can collage it, freehand cut it if you want, but this is just a really fun, easy way to finish it. So now when I put that, I've got the tracing right there. So I'm going to press it just to make sure that the paper stays in place and it doesn't slip while I'm cutting. So I'm going to do this with his little, I should really learn the anatomy of a rooster. Some of you that are watching this will probably be able to help me. Okay, so let's figure out the orientation. It's going to go like that. So about like that. Now I'm still going to probably want to peel it back to make sure I get the eye placement correct. Let's see. Let's do this color. I think this, should I do this one or that one? I think I'll go with this one for his, again, I don't know the anatomy. I need to know, but his little gobbler section. And I want to, of course, make sure that there's overlap. So I might cut this just a little bit larger on the inside to make sure that there's overlap with those other pieces. That's really, really important, as we have talked about. We need to have this whole thing come off in one piece. Okay, there's this gobbler thing. That should go about right there. Looking good. And again, I'm really kind of careful still to make sure that I'm only pressing to the parchment paper, not to the other pieces around it. And then for the fun of it, I like this fabric. It's I like having just the variety of those 3 fabrics on his face. This is the trickiest part that I run up against, trying to peel back the paper without scoring it. Okay. Let's make sure I get that whole little head in there. And it needs to come down. I'm going to, again, make sure there's some overlap. So I'll start it right there. Okay, there's the tracing, and I'm going to press it. See how handy this wand iron is? That's just an essential tool. I've got to just start including it as an essential tool in the supply list. And if that's essential, so is the silicone mat, so that you don't burn down your house. because it doesn't have an automatic shut off like other irons. See how easy that is to be able to follow the tracing? Okay, just about done. Now we're going to do the eye. And I'm going to show you 2 ways to do the eye. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. There's this little, that looks so cute. These roosters are really fun to do. They are just colorful, beautiful little birds. Now I can see I've got a little bit of a gap right there. So I'm going to tuck another piece of fabric under there, and you might not, like you can see this isn't lining up absolutely perfectly. You might need to adjust it just a little bit. There we go. Now I've got a gap there. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow fabric just to fill that in. Wee, excuse me. Okay. And I'll just tuck this underneath here. Oh, and while I've got this yellow fabric out, let's do his beak. Okay, let's lift that up just a little bit, slide that underneath. There we go. And now let's do his beak. I think I can eyeball that. Just kind of the way I'll eyeball that is just like that. Pretty easy. Of course, you can trace it if you feel like you need to. Can you see how much overlap there is? There's about a 1/4 inch overlap there, so that I can tuck this underneath the red pieces of his face, and that will ensure that everything sticks together good. Okay, there. Now let's get his eyeball. So I'm going to show you one really easy way to do the eyeball. It would be to use fabric like this that has polka dots, and you might have some of this. I can't remember if we have this in all of the kits. We've probably tried to get it, or this might be from my own stash. But these make just really nice, all these little polka dots make just great little eyeballs. And the way to do that would be to just freehand it. And I can look at it and see, oh, it's a very small little eye. And as long as it gets close enough in size, that's all we're really looking for. So that's just a little bit bigger than the original, but it looks pretty good, pretty cute that way. This is where it's very helpful to have some tweezers. And this is the one time where I break my rule about the size. These little eyeballs get very, very small. So I think it goes about right there. And then he would need a black pupil. And this is going to be easier to cut out if I take the paper off first. And it's also easier if I hold it with the tweezers so that my big fingers aren't in the way. And I can just kind of trim this up, rounding it. Really, this is the trickiest thing to do, especially if you have arthritis or shaky hands. So there's my Okay, so that's one way to do an eye. I'll show you another way to do an eye, but I'm going to leave this because I think I might use that. It's just, that works out great. Another way to do it would be to select a lighter piece of fabric so that we've got to make sure that it shows up on his face. And this would be just the same SAS tracing. So if I want to be super precise with his eye, I'll put it up here and trace it. And then cut that out. And let's just do a double check on the placement. So I lift that up, I see where and again, I think it goes about right there. Okay. And rather than cut another black piece, I'll just use that piece right there. Okay, so there's his eye. It doesn't have to be fancy. And you don't really even need to do a highlight on some of the, if you want to do a highlight, that means, you know, a little white speck. You can do that. You can do it with thread. I think I will just leave this here. That looks great. So now I am pressing it to each other. So all of these fabric pieces are being pressed to each other and to the parchment paper. And now I feel like I can lift this off and take it over to my large iron and run over it with a large dry iron just to confirm that all the pieces are stuck together and it's stuck to the parchment paper. And now this is finished. So there we go. There is the Jaune Rooster for the Petit Roosters, or Petit Rouge Rooster collection. So we'll go through the next step in a little bit. So I'll catch you again soon. Thank you again for joining me. See you later.